Hello. So, I had this idea, and we'll see how far it goes, of doing a little bit like of a video series on I don't want to be afraid, and then some sort of topic that I feel like a large group of people can relate to. This may or may not go on for a while, and I may or may not have other people included, but for now, we're going to start with the first one, because that's how you start, right? First step. The first one I want to talk about is in the media a lot, because, hashtag me too, right? And it's, I don't want to be afraid of being a woman. And I phrased it that way because with kind of everything going on right now, the kind of place I am in life, a lot of my friends are having kids, which also makes me and my husband talk about when we have kids. And the topic of, do you want a boy or a girl, kind of comes up. And I've always been of the opinion that I don't care if I have a boy or if I have a girl or both or neither, whatever happens, right? I'm not super concerned about it. But when I think about it, part of me kind of prefers to have a boy. And I really thought about it because I don't really care, but if I had to choose, and I'm trying to figure out where that comes from. And I realize it kind of comes from the kind of experience that I've had as a woman. And it's not always been positive. So, why is that? Why am I so bothered and afraid of being a woman? And so that's kind of where this is going to come in. So this, I feel like it comes from not just my experiences, but the experiences of all the women that are around me, like my mom, my grandmother, and then also all of my friends, coworkers, and so on, who've had experiences that they shouldn't have had to deal with solely based on the fact that they're women. And this really, really upsets me because we keep trying to prove that we're better than that. We're doing better. These problems don't exist anymore. And as much as I want that to be true, and it's one of the reasons why my husband get upset, I'm not trying to be unidealistic. We are doing better, but we're not doing great. We're not as good as we should be. And the reason is because women that still have this impediment of being a woman. Well, why do you say that? We can work, we can do all this stuff. Yeah, we can do stuff, but a lot of the times we're afraid to do stuff. I'm trying to be very general here and figuring out how to get specific on it, but the other day I had this really, really strong craving for what was it? Something sweet. I really wanted something sweet. I'm talking I needed some powdered donuts, I needed cookies, I needed something. And we didn't have any in the house, good for us. But I really, really wanted some, and my husband was busy. So I was like, well, maybe we can go to the store after. I was like, oh man, it'd be nice if we could walk to the store. Now this isn't super crazy. There's a grocery store, I don't know, a mile that way. It's really not that far. So it's a reasonable walk. And it was a nice day. It should have been an easy thing. And usually my husband says, no, don't worry about it. We'll go drive there in a minute. But he said that I could go. And I froze. And I remember thinking, I can't do that. That's terrifying. It's not that I physically can't. I can't. I can't walk by myself down a sidewalk to the grocery store. That's dangerous. That's terrifying. What could happen? And it's not that far. It was not the middle of the night. The sun was still up. I think it was a Sunday in the afternoon, but it was still bright outside. But I was terrified at the thought of walking that by myself. And part of it is because, I've heard a lot of people say that the kind of area that we live in is not, the best area. It's it has mixed reviews on like the kind of people who live here and stuff like that. And I'm sure that definitely played a part in it. But I've just had to grow very aware that I'm a woman, and not just that I'm a woman, but like that people will find me attractive walking on the street. And I don't mean it in like a condescending or like trying to be all uppity about it. It's kind of one of those facts that you have to realize at some point, is that if a lot of other people can find you attractive, as a woman, you kind of have to be careful. And part of that is because of that whole Me Too movement. We've been made, everybody else knows about it now, but we've always known about that. Like the risks of being a woman and being an attractive woman on top of that. And so this idea of walking down the street was terrifying. And it's not the first time I've had that realization. I've had it when I just moved here to San Antonio and I wanted to go out. I like going out. I like going out to parties. I like going out to a bar to have a drink and have a good time and listen to music. To me, that's a fun thing to do. And when I just moved here, I didn't know very many people, and I couldn't get myself to go by myself. When one of my really good friends came into town, because I mentioned him before, he tours in a band, I went out to that bar and I met him so fast. Like, we had a good time and it was great, and every time he does that, I try to go. But I couldn't get myself to go by myself. And all of this I'm trying to say isn't to like gain sympathy. It's my point in making these vlogs is never to gain sympathy. I don't want you to feel bad. I'm trying to bring awareness to certain things, and this one is that we're not done working on making a safer place for us as women. We need to continue to try to make that a priority, because I'm still aware that this stuff still happens. I was just reading a news article like 5 minutes before doing this video of this woman who killed her boyfriend because it was the only way to get out of her situation, because she'd been constantly abused physically and sexually for years and needed to get out. And that was the only way that she could. And she was currently facing charges. And this was all done in self-defense. And it's not the first time I've read a story like that. When me and my husband started dating originally, there was a news article that came out of a woman who'd gone out on a date, used a dating app, went and met in a public place. It's a long story, got in a cab, went home because she wasn't feeling well, and he walked her home, and it sounds like a very gentleman-like thing to do. Invited him in, still wasn't feeling well, so I asked him to leave. He left, she locked the door, she went to bed, and later on that night ended up calling the cops because she heard somebody in her house, and he was downstairs laying down plastic sheeting because he was going to try to kill her. There are all of these stories, and every woman knows them, either personally or because of somebody that they know personally, like their friends know, have an experience. Almost every single one of us have some sort of story of a varying degree. I remember being a waitress and still being really nervous that one of these guys would build up the courage to follow me home. I remember being in college and still being very aware that certain professors thought I was attractive, and I was not okay with that. Things like that shouldn't happen. They shouldn't be such a big problem. And it keeps happening, and we keep trying to figure out what to do about it. And it's time that we start making some plans. And slowly but surely we are. But I feel like not enough people want to acknowledge this issue. I try to explain it to my husband some days. I'm like, look, it's a scary thing. And he kind of gets it, because there are days where he's like, no, you shouldn't do that, or just wait till I'm with you. Or like we were talking about the other day, going grocery shopping. When I go with him, we park at the back of the parking lot so we can get our steps in going into the store. But when I'm by myself, I try to park up front and close so I don't have to walk a long distance in a parking lot by myself. And he even brings it up that he understands that I'm not comfortable parking far away by myself. And he's doing the best he can to try to help me and trying not to be part of the problem. But it still doesn't make me any more comfortable or afraid on my own. And I think that was why when, forced to pick boy or girl, I think I'd prefer a boy, because I feel like I could try to make a boy that wouldn't be a problem, and I don't have to worry about a girl going through the things that I've had to go through. And I know that that's not how that works. You can't just pick, and it's not like I'd love one more than the other or anything like that. It's just, it's hard to imagine, because every time I hear friends, family, all about talk about motherhood, how much a mother loves their child, it's hard to imagine loving somebody that much and having to watch them go through that. Having to watch them go through the kinds of things that I went through just because they were female. And that makes me want to change things more, so that one day it won't matter, because they'll have the same opportunities, because they'll have the same experiences, because they won't have to be afraid to be one or the other. And I feel like I talk about it a lot on this vlog. If you know me in person, I talk about it constantly. And I feel like part of the problem is that we're not talking about it. It makes us uncomfortable. When we, you talk about it with other guys, it makes them feel uncomfortable because, well, I'm not part of the problem. Why do I have to know about it? Like, I'm not doing anything. Just because you aren't part of the problem doesn't mean much. Kudos to you for not being a jerk, but just because you're not part of the problem doesn't mean that you can't be part of the solution. Like, we need more people to be standing up for us when this happens. There are people who are claiming things like locker room talk, like, oh, well, we talk about that amongst ourselves, but it's just us joking around. And it's like, that shouldn't be okay. We should still be trying, even in private, to be better people. And if you're, guy in the locker room doing your thing and you hear somebody talking about like that, about women, or trying to brag about the things that they've gotten away with, does that feel okay? For me, it doesn't even feel okay when I hear people talking about other people like that. And I know I've made my fair share of mistakes trying to figure out how to navigate that kind of situation. But I'm still trying. And that's what I feel like we're asking of other people, of men, of other women who don't know what to do about it either, is to try to continually be better and stand up for other people who are being treated like this. And hopefully we'll have more stories one day of, there was a woman who used to go to a bus stop every day because that was part of her routine to get to work, to get her kids dropped off, and so on and so forth. And every day there was a man that was sitting on that bench. She was always nervous and afraid, but she sat there because she had to, and got on her bus and left, and he would stay there. And one day he wasn't, and then she saw him running out of his house, which was right by the bus stop. Evidently his wife had seen her sitting on that bus stop by herself every morning and had asked him to go and sit with her to make sure she was okay. We need more stories like that. We need more people who were there to watch out for each other. More stories like a woman seeing another woman being harassed in a gym, just trying to get her workout done, and going up to her and saying, hey, are you okay? Do you need help? Do you need a group? Do you need something? What do you need to be okay? Because we need more of that. We need more people who aren't afraid to stand up and call someone out on their bad behavior, because that's the only way that change happens. If you don't stop to question why things are the norm, they'll never change and be better. If we don't start calling out men to be more responsible for their actions, for all of these things that are going on, they're never going to be held more accountable. If we don't ask women to be more proactive about things and helping each other, it's never going to change. And I hope that this series continues, because there's a lot of issues like this that I feel like we need more people to be talking about it. We need more people to do something about it. And I know that we get things like, empathy fatigue, where we care so much about so many things, and we just get tired and exhausted. And I get it. You can ask anybody who knows me personally. I have the biggest heart, and I am very empathetic, and I try to take the world on and carry all these problems personally. And I get tired. I feel like I get to a point where I can't care anymore, because there's just so much to care about. But we need to start picking somewhere to start. Picking which problems that we can handle right now, because somebody else is going to pick up the other ones. Because we need to start somewhere, and change needs to happen. Slowly, yeah, always slowly. But it needs to happen, and it needs to start somewhere. So that's today's topic. A little bit more about the kinds of things that go through my head when I think about my fears of being a woman. But I wouldn't change it. I like being a woman. I like being, sassy and all that stuff that comes with being me, mostly. I like knowing that my body can one day carry children for my family and get through it. I like knowing that I'm strong in other ways, that I bring a certain skill set to the table. And I want to always enjoy it. Maybe one day I won't have to worry about all the little things that I just mentioned, and I won't ever be afraid, and it'll just be another thing about me that I can be proud of, that doesn't hold me back. Thanks for listening.